Let me let you in on a secret. It's a secret I've hunted for in ancient temples, forgotten texts, and the daily journals of the most successful people on the planet. And they all share one common thread. It's not what you think. It's not just hard work. Think about it. Leonardo da Vinci carried the Mona Lisa with him for 16 years, tweaking it constantly. 16 years. Michelangelo spent 4 years on his back, his neck permanently damaged, painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So what was it that dragged them to the canvas or the scaffold day after day? Inspiration? Money? Fame? Nope. The answer is hidden in 2 words we're going to talk about today: grit and consistency. But behind these 2 words are stories you've never been told. Let's take a look at them together. The Japanese art of Kintsugi and the myth of perfection. When we think of success and discipline, we usually picture a perfect, smooth, flawless path. But that's one of the biggest misconceptions in history. I want to tell you about a Japanese art form called Kintsugi. They repair broken pottery not with ordinary glue, but with a lacquer mixed with gold dust. Why? Because they believe the breakage is part of the object's history. The flaw isn't something to hide, it's a mark to be celebrated, adding character and beauty. That is exactly what grit and consistency are all about. Every mistake, every failure, every break is a golden vein added to your story. It's not about perfectionism, but imperfect progress. Think of it like this: you're playing a video game and your character is constantly jumping, running. Sometimes you fall, you lose a little health. But you don't quit the game, right? You think, okay, I messed up, how do I recover? That's real grit, not quitting the game. It's about hitting, continue, every single time. So, where does this power to keep playing come from? The answer is locked deep within our brains. The ancient chip in your brain, dopamine, and the chemistry of small wins. Grit isn't about willpower. It's actually a chemical game. Its name, dopamine. We call it the reward molecule. It's the chemical your brain releases when you achieve a goal, when you get a reward. So, what's its connection to discipline? The connection is this: if you only work for big, distant goals, you wait for years for a hit of dopamine. That's like starting a marathon barefoot. It hurts and you quit. But the ancient Roman Empire's construction engineers had this figured out. While building their massive aqueducts, they would erect a small, triumphal arch, or a fountain every single mile. The workers would see a tangible, small victory with each completed mile, and their motivation would be refreshed. Here's a little-known fact for you: the modern to-do list is actually a reflection of this Roman logic. Every time you check off a small, easily completable task on your list, you inject a small dose of dopamine into your brain. This motivates you for the next item. Discipline isn't about brutally forcing yourself. It's about cleverly hacking your brain. This is why a quote from Thomas Edison hits so hard. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. That perspiration is all those little, unseen moments where you're chasing that next dopamine hit. But is discipline possible with just pain and struggle, without these small wins? The answer lies with one of the most resilient communities in the world. Sparta's secret weapon was Spartan discipline, a myth? We've all heard the legend of Spartan discipline. Ruthless, rigid, unfeeling. But is that accurate? Actually, no. The Spartans didn't see discipline as just physical training. For them, discipline was a logic of life. And their most interesting secret was this: pleasure comes after the pain. A Spartan warrior would plunge into a freezing river in the dead of winter, grapple with hunger, and undertake long marches. But while doing this, he would think of the deep satisfaction and camaraderie he would feel that evening around the campfire. In other words, discipline was about giving up short-term comfort for a greater pleasure and purpose. Aren't we doing the same thing today? We work a tough job because we know the pleasure of providing for our family, or taking a vacation with that paycheck. We work out because we know the feeling of energy and confidence after a workout. Grit isn't about suffering, it's about investing in future pleasure today. Another secret of the Spartans was consistency. For them, training never stopped, even when there was no war. Because they knew that one day of slack could undo a month of discipline. But can this rigidity be softened a bit? The answer comes from a desert tribe. The Bedouin philosophy of patience and the lost well principle. If you ask a Bedouin in the middle of the desert how they reach their destination, they'll tell you the metaphor of digging a well. You start digging a well. 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. No water. You get frustrated and start digging somewhere else. But you were only 1 meter away from hitting water in that first well. This is the lost well principle. Failure is often the result of not going deep enough. The Bedouins learned that for survival in the desert, patience was more important than muscle. For them, the journey is as valuable as the destination. Every step is a meditation. So, how do we apply this philosophy to the modern world? I'm going to tell you about a technique used by the world's most productive people, named after an Italian aristocrat. But first, let me ask you, do you spend 80% of your day on tasks that are actually trivial? The answer lies in the early 20th century. The Pareto Principle and the birth of efficient grit. Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto was studying the peas in his garden when he noticed something. 20% of the pea pods produced 80% of the peas. He expanded this observation and found that 20% of the Italian population owned 80% of the land. This went down in history as the 80-20 rule or the Pareto Principle. So how is this connected to discipline? It's simple. Being disciplined isn't about doing everything. It's about focusing on that critical 20% of activities that bring the most results. So, if you're a student, don't try to master all 10 subjects. Laser focus on the 2 key topics that will have the most questions on the exam. If you're an entrepreneur, don't try to make 8 out of 10 customers happy. Focus on delighting the 2 customers who bring you the most business. This is lazy discipline. This is the smart way. As Steve Jobs famously said, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Consistency is the discipline of being able to say no. But how does this focus and discipline translate into a daily rhythm? The answer lies in the genius of a composer. Beethoven's diary, the ordinary ritual behind the genius. Beethoven is considered one of the greatest composers who ever lived. His muse wasn't a lightning bolt of inspiration that struck him out of the blue. It was an extremely ordinary morning ritual that started after he meticulously counted out exactly 60 coffee beans for a single cup. Then, at precisely the same time, for the same duration, he would sit down to compose. Even if inspiration didn't come. Especially if inspiration didn't come. His discipline was not a servant to creativity, but a butler who forcibly invited it in. One day, when a student said, "Sir, I don't like today's composition, inspiration didn't come," Beethoven's response was, "Then you must compel it, you must seize it by the throat and force it to come." This is consistency in its purest form. Not waiting for motivation to strike, taking action and letting motivation follow. It's time to build your summit. So, there you have it. The grit and consistency required for success are not a torture, but a journey of self-discovery. It's about repairing your cracks like Japanese Kintsugi, celebrating small wins like Roman engineering, continuing to dig your well with Bedouin patience, focusing on the critical point with Pareto's intelligence, and repeating the same ritual every day with Beethoven's determination. On this journey, you will make mistakes. You will fall. There will be times you'll feel like giving up on digging your well. But remember, Michelangelo once said that he saw a human form, already waiting, inside the massive marble block before he carved David. Inside you, there is a success story, waiting to get out. The only thing needed to bring it out is to keep chiseling away, every single day. Keep sculpting that marble. Discipline is the price you pay for freedom. And consistency is the victory of those who are willing to pay that price. Now go, and write your own story. Pick up your camera, your brush, your laptop, your project. And do it not just today, but tomorrow, and the day after that. Because great successes are not built with grand moves, but with invisible, small steps.